Welcome to the Momentum Ministry Partners podcast. This podcast is designed to provide momentum in our God-given roles of leadership as we partner together to equip today's Christian leaders for tomorrow's opportunities. Whether you're a pastor, youth leader, ministry volunteer, parent, or student, we want to be your go-to and most trusted resource for equipping and encouragement when it comes to your ministry and leadership influence. Thanks for tuning in, and we hope you enjoy this episode.
Hello and welcome back to another Momentum Ministry Partners podcast. My name's Eric, and I'm excited. We have a special guest with us here today. Chesley Lundy is here. Chesley, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Excited to have you back, and excited to have you a part of this conversation.
Yeah, we've become fast friends, so it's always fun to do something like this with friends.
For sure. Well, Chesley and I got to meet at Momentum Pro for a Momentum Pro event. If you're a senior pastor or youth pastor and you're not a part of Momentum Pro, reach out to us. We'd love to talk. And you were one of our guest speakers at Momentum Pro this last fall and got to be a part of that. And you talked to our senior pastors on a variety of things. You talked to our youth pastors that were there as well. But one of the things that you did was kind of talking about AI and making sense of AI. And there is such a deep conversation that we could have on that. And I was like, we need to come back to this. Yeah. And I want to pick your brain some more. So here we are.
Yeah.
Here we are.
I'm excited.
Yeah. Well, we'll link to your website. It's just yourname.com.org.
Yeah, myname.com.
There you go. Now, tell us, I'm sure the listeners are going to ask, and you told me before, did your parents, were they mean? What was the thought of Chesley?
My mom was in labor with me for 48 hours and said, you made me suffer for 2 days. I'm going to make you suffer for the rest of your life. And so
I love that.
My name is Chesley Lunday. You can misspell it, and you'll probably still get my website. That is the beauty of having a name like mine.
We'll link to it in the show notes and all that. But usually I always get bored. My name's Eric Miller, and it's as boring. Usually when I meet people and I introduce myself, they're like, "Oh, I know an Eric Miller." I'm like, "That's fun. Now you know another one. Thanks." There's nothing unique or special about it. But Chesley, then people are like, "Wait, is that your real name, or is it short for something?" Yeah,
it is my name. It is my name.
I love it. Part of me's jealous. I won't lie.
It's all right. I'm at some point, I just want Chesley.com. So I can become Oprah. Like Oprah.
There you go.
Nobody knows. Well, that's not true. Everybody knows Oprah's last name is Winfrey, but she doesn't go by Oprah Winfrey.
Yes.
Just say, Oprah.
Yes, that's so good.
At some point in my life, I want to just be synonymous with Chesley.
There you go.
That'd be great.
Well, I'll delete your last name in my phone. In your contacts.
There you go. There you go.
Oh, that's awesome. All right, let's do some rapid fire questions here just so that our audience can get to know you a little bit.
Yeah, sounds great.
Who's your favorite superhero?
Batman.
Nice. No hesitation.
No hesitation.
Why?
Because his only superpower is that he's super rich.
Okay, there you go. Oh, that's awesome.
But I love the fact that he is very smart, and he plays into the fact that he is not super like the rest of them.
Okay.
It's really great.
I love that. Yeah. I love that. That's awesome.
He says ordinary men can do real big things too.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. And he drives a freaking cool car.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That thing is wild.
I
love
got so obsessed
Batman.
for a little while. I actually did the math, and you can actually become Batman for about $4.3 million.
There you go.
It won't be as nice as some of his toys, but it'll work.
Yeah, it'll work. I love that you even spent the time and energy to do the math on that. Okay. I believe you. Batman is up there. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Favorite Marvel movie or TV show?
Oh, man. I think
it's kind of going superhero.
Yeah, so when it comes to Marvel's, Captain America is definitely my favorite. But you can't really go wrong with any of the Avengers.
Yeah,
I really love that. But I think Civil War is probably
okay. It's nice.
It's either that or the first Captain America because it ends on a really sour note.
Yeah. Yes.
He finds the girl, and then he's gone away from the girl for forever. It makes you kind of like a tearjerker. It's great.
Right. They take you on a roller coaster ride.
Yes, they do.
Sure. I just finished on all my travel. I was watching on the plane all the Marvel movies in chronological order. I'd never done that before.
Oh man,
it was wild.
Yeah,
it was wild. They
really
lost
do their way.
They really do integrate in the early parts. Yeah,
yeah. I think till phase 3, and then after phase 3, it's just they don't know where they're headed.
Yep. And then a lot of people don't know, like, watch till after the credits, or like, if you're watching on Disney, fast forward. Sorry, Sony. Like, yeah, but that little piece at the end is like game changer for some of those.
Yeah, and the first
connect.
one, most people don't realize this, but you can go back to the second Hulk, not the first one back in 2003, the Ang Lee Hulk, but the one with Edward Norton.
Yes.
And that was actually the beginning of the Avengers, of actually phase 1, phase 2, phase 3.
I read an article on that recently.
Yeah,
I just watched Daredevil, and it took me down a whole rabbit trail of early.
Yeah. And they're coming out with a new Daredevil.
I know. I saw that. I saw that. That's fun. All right. Let's kind of stay in superhero, but take it out of this context. I know you're a sports guy.
Yeah.
Favorite MLB player of all time?
Albert Pujols.
I knew you were going to say that. This is we've talked both before the podcast and offline that you're a Cardinals fan.
I'm a Cardinals fan.
I'm a Cubs fan.
Yeah.
The fact that we are sitting here at the table and we like each other proves there is a God.
There is a God, and He's gracious. Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Because,
Albert Pujols.
Yes, Albert. It was my first MLB game. Was his rookie year, and just fell in love, and been a Pujols fan ever since.
I love it. And I hate it all
at the same time.
I had such an admiration for Albert Pujols, but it was mostly just out of jealousy.
Yeah, well, I mean, as a Cubs fan, your favorite years of Albert's career is when he was somewhere else.
Yes. Go play for LA. Go play for
LA. And then he came back and actually did well again.
No.
It's like, no.
Exactly right.
It's the bane of the Cubs' existence, I'm sure.
Yeah, he hits like 500 against us. It's crazy. It's unbelievable. Yeah. He could be 65 and probably still beat the Cubs.
Probably.
Yeah.
In a wheelchair.
Oh, that's amazing. All right. Well, give us a little bit of context and history. I know you've wore a lot of hats through your time in ministry. You've been a pastor. You're, working on being a resource to the church. I love your heartbeat and all of that. Yeah. Like, God has taken you through some amazing experiences and opportunities. Just share briefly with our audience kind of your context and what you're doing now and how you can be a help to our friends who are listening.
Yeah, so been in ministry for over a decade in multiple different positions: youth ministry, teaching pastor, church replanter, and then most recently have been working on the Gen Z technology side of the church, helping with research and development and coaching other churches on how to engage Gen Z and millennials. And have done 2 major research projects that are national studies. They're statistically valid. They're weighted against the census, which is really, really helpful. Yeah. And then I'm in the middle of writing a book. I've sent my proposals off to an agent, so we'll get. Hopefully, we'll get all that out to you guys as well soon.
Awesome.
But yeah, really, really happy. I've been in the digital space. I started with them about 6 years ago when it wasn't cool. And just asked one simple question: what would it look like if the church didn't have a building? Yeah. Little did I know, a short 4 years later, we would answer that question. Holy cow, 4 years later.
I know.
It's been 8 years.
It's crazy.
It was 2016.
It has, in essence. Yeah.
My bad. I'm getting old. Getting old. It may have been over, when I say over a decade, it's probably like closer to 15 years now, man.
Oh, my.
Yeah. Every day I wake up, I got another gray hair in my beard.
Yeah. Same. I love it. Well, Chesley, like kind of in this conversation, our goal really is to help our listeners make sense of artificial intelligence. It is this kind of new thing for a lot of us, and many pastors and church leaders I know they're not really sure what to think of it yet. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Is it evil? Can we trust it? There's all kinds of different perspectives on the pendulum that maybe our thoughts and opinions swing wildly on that. If you're there, we welcome you into this conversation. We want to help you just kind of form some opinions, maybe have a little bit more information from a brother in Christ, from somebody who's been doing your ministry in this perspective, in this paradigm. You've done research. You've helped coach network churches. You've spoken on this in many different settings. So help us on the Momentum podcast, we like to define our terms a little bit here. Yeah. Help us make sense. What is AI? How does it impact our daily life? Maybe give some examples towards that end.
Yeah, well, we've been dealing with AI, which is artificial intelligence, for years. We if you have Siri on your phone or Google Assistants,
Yep.
those are really crappy versions of AI.
Yeah.
But
Amazon, Alexa.
yeah, like that. So it's just a computer program written in code that can intelligently understand human language. Where the breakthrough has happened in the last couple of years is generative and predictive AI.
Okay.
So those are the things that when we talk about AI, like a lot of these ideas of AI from the past, which we've been using, I said Siri and Alexa. There's other like database AI where we have algorithms that sort things for us. That's also artificial intelligence.
Okay.
What's changed is now we're into creativity, where we created a program that can create new things.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest breakthrough. So they can
Okay.
they can hear us from a language processing standpoint. They can create new answers from scratch, whereas Siri's looking for answers. They're creating it themselves. It may not be accurate right now.
Right.
But they're coming up with new ways to answer the questions, which is not normal. We haven't had that in the past.
Yeah. Yeah. So our kids have grown up in this world where they have access to that tech.
Yes.
They have access to AI. My son is 7. Every morning he asks Alexa, "What's the weather?" Right, when he's getting dressed, because he wants to know, and he's learning how all that works, or play my favorite song, or so there for sure are those kind of examples in the church world. What has that looked like before this creative side of AI kind of came about? How have you seen churches using that or leveraging that?
The overwhelming majority of churches have ignored it.
Okay.
They're not thinking about AI. They're thinking about how to get people in their building on Sundays.
Yep.
And so it's been under the radar. There's a few churches that have done new things and tried to work with it. I think the early days of digital, you have places like Life Church that have really started experimenting, but right now AI is in experimental phase all over the place.
Sure.
So I think the church is kind of late to the game with artificial intelligence, and unless something changes, we're going to continue to be late to the game because they don't see the benefits of it from a Sunday-centric perspective.
Okay. Yeah. I think you hit the nail on the head there, because like most things in church world right now, the church is often catching up to culture.
Yeah.
And there's probably a reason for that. We won't go into the theology side of all of that right now, but any pastor listening is going to know those contexts of things and the weight of that. So in this conversation, again, help us make sense. Let's just go one click further. Help us understand the context. You said creative AI. How does that play out? In my research, I found some of the things that distinguishing between what's called strong AI and weak AI. Are you familiar with some of these terms, like the machinery side of it, like designed for specific tasks? Can you explain or break that down for us a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, weak AI is what we get with Siri and Alexa. It's not generative in scope. It's not predictive in nature. They can't create new, quote unquote, ideas, if you will. And even strong AI, which people are starting to talk about sentient beings in AI, like they've created what they consider some coders consider that they've created something that has consciousness. And so when we talk about strong AI and sentience, they are saying, hey, we're seeing some patterns in the machinery, the code that we've created, that it has self-awareness and what they're called becoming sentient beings, meaning they have a consciousness. Now, I disagree with that.
Okay.
I don't believe that that's what's happening, but it can feel spooky because it feels like that from our side. But the reality is, it's still program driven.
Yep.
Now, can the program be controlled? That's what they're saying. They're like, we're afraid it might not be able to be controlled.
Where do you think that fear comes from?
Yeah, people have always been afraid of technology. I mean, look at Terminator.
I was gonna say
Star Wars, Star Trek, like every single story in the world has always been about how technology will end the human race. And I think, if we want to get theological and philosophical in scope, I think it's a reflection of what creation has done to its creator. And now that we're dealing with the fact that we're creating, we're worried about the rebellion of our creation.
Wow.
Because it's, steeped in our DNA. And so I think that's what we're seeing. But I think it's not nearly as bad. It's never nearly as bad, never nearly as good as we say it is.
Right.
I tend to think the world is more like the Jetsons. I can't wait for Rosie.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do love my robot vacuum cleaner.
Yeah. Just wait till it can talk to you and cook you eggs in the morning.
There you go. There you go. I'm not going to lie. That might not be a bad thing.
Right. It's wonderful.
That's awesome. All right. That's very helpful. Thank you. Help us make sense of ChatGPT, some of these things that right now, there are churches who are like, we're all in. We love this. We're using it to write all of our content for whatever. And then there are other churches that are like, we're not touching it. We don't want to have anything to do with it. For the pastors, the churches, the ministry leaders who are listening, what's your take on using things like ChatGPT or making sense of using AI in that format as far as writing content or curriculum or even guiding you or pointing you in a direction as far as curriculum?
Yeah. So my question that I ask leaders are, would you continue to work on an MS-DOS platform if you had iOS available to you? And there are some leaders that say yes.
Yeah.
The problem is if you say yes, you're going to become irrelevant at some point. So the irrelevance discussion is really huge right now. What I have found when it comes to AI, especially in these early stages, is use AI to minimize administration and maximize ministry. And I think we get confused to go, well, there's no creativity if we use ChatGPT. Listen, you have to proofread everything ChatGPT creates anyways.
100%.
And you can make it your own, but you don't have to sit there and think about 3 hours worth of how to structure a talk or structure a curriculum. It can do it for you in a way where now you can focus on the quality of the content inside of the structure rather than the structure itself, which the structure is what takes the most time. Until you actually have a template, that this is how we do it every time. But you can actually teach generative AI like ChatGPT to be able to create those things the way you would create them, to talk the way you would talk. And the way you do that is you feed it more and more of your content, the way you speak. The more sermons that you pump into it, the more it can begin to sound like the way you would say things, the doctrine you would use, believe it or not, you can have a theologically aligned ChatGPT service based off of your stuff, so that when you do create, let's say, small group curriculum, it helps. But I don't take notes in meetings anymore. I'm just there present so I can engage and interact. And then I have an AI that listens in on our conversation, and within 30 seconds, literally categorizes everything we've done, has key takeaways, have big ideas, and have here's the things you actually have to get done, and links to those points in the Zoom video. Why would I ever spend time and brain power to do these things that AI can do for us? And so when I talk to ministry leaders, I say, minimize admin, because that's not what we're here for.
Right.
Maximize ministry. That's what we're here for.
Yes.
And that's what AI can do for us if we will actually take those steps.
That's so good. Okay, now I'm picturing a whole bunch of pastors and ministry leaders that just pulled their car over listening to this, and they're like, wait a second, how do I do that?
Okay.
Take them down that path. We're going to take a tangent here for a second.
Yeah.
In Zoom, in your team meetings, in your staff meetings, how do you help them do that? Go there for a second.
Well, first, Fathom.video is the tool that I use.
Okay.
So I personally am researching AI tools that will help minimize my administrative load.
Okay.
So there's a calendar that's AI based that will take all of your tasks that you need to do and then plug them in based off of the open slots you have in your calendar. And so you can create an AI powered calendar with motion. It's called usemotion.com, I'm pretty sure is the URL for that. So I have an AI powered calendar. I have Fathom.video for my note taking. I use a couple different, like church.tech is really great with my social media videos. I can take my messages and my social content and turn them into small group discussion guides, and also they'll edit the video for me.
Nice.
I also have another AI powered editor. I used to use Final Cut Pro, which is it's like Adobe Premiere, and that is really heavy. You got to know how to use it.
Yep.
It's a very complex system for film editing, and I still use it on occasions, but the overwhelming majority of my editing now has been used in Descript. It's another AI tool, and it pumps out all of my transcripts within a minute and a half of putting the video in. I can ask AI to build social posts around it, and honestly, I've trained it to actually become a filler for my voice. When I mess up on something, it's recreated my voice to where I can literally write something out and it would say it for me in my voice.
Yeah.
Which is really, really interesting.
That's the creepy part. Maybe,
yeah, it is. But at the same time, like, it's super helpful because I'm like, I don't have to spend time. It sounds like an unemotional Chesley, but which is probably not always a bad thing.
You're like, call my wife.
Yeah, my therapist. Histrionic. You're high in histrionics.
Oh, man. That's awesome. Yeah, those things, like having the knowledge or the ability to go do that. I love what your bottom line here is, like, minimize the administrative time and maximize your ministry time.
Yes.
Like, how many of us as pastors, maybe in the churches where you don't have a full-time admin and you have things that you need help with.
Yeah.
And so delegating those things, or the ability to take your ministry to the next level if I only had 5 more hours a week to spend time with people, to do discipleship, to do the Bible study. And if you can delegate some of these things to something like AI, and I get it may take you a minute to figure out how to do that and to navigate, like, getting it all set up. Sure, there's time there.
Well, I talk about this with a bunch of church staffs that I have coached throughout the years. We talk about the nice, shiny thing for about 5 minutes, and then we keep going on and go, well, that wasn't useful.
Yes.
And the reality is AI is not that big of a deal right now. Don't put your energies toward that. What I would do is I put my energies towards automations. So most churches don't know how to use what I'm going to call it a CRM, because that's what it's called, but it's a customer relationship manager. We're used to church management systems, but they're built for churches and they're not built for building relationships and assimilation within the church.
Yes.
And then automating tasks throughout the day. So some of the things that you consistently go to an administrative assistant for, you can actually automate an entire system to do it for you, but the church doesn't take the time because they don't know how to do it.
Yes.
That's why you hire a coach like me or somebody else to walk you through, to build those automated systems so that nobody falls through the cracks.
Absolutely.
And it will be done for you once you build it, but you've got to build it. So while AI is really cool, do the fundamental things that need to be done in ministry to maximize ministry impact and time.
Yes.
And minimize your administrative load.
Buddy, that's so good, because I like to say that the systems that you create matter, but you have to use them. And so how many times, like, do churches buy Planning Center Online, or they get the CRM, they get the database, they get the thing, and then 6 months later the staff has forgotten that they have it and they quit using it, or they don't take attendance in it, or they don't input the data that you need in order for that platform or that system to be successful. Yeah.
I always say, if you're going to build it, if you're going to have a new operating system, you have to have a coach that holds the team accountable.
Yes.
Without the coach, like the person in charge of corralling all the cats, and herding cats.
Yep.
Like it becomes overwhelming because they also have another hat they're wearing that's a ministry hat.
Yep.
And so I say invest in coaching, and that may be because I'm a coach, but I've been in church staffs, and I honestly I am a church pastor who has I have hired 3 coaches for myself.
Yeah.
So this isn't just somebody saying,
Yes.
well, hire me as a coach.
Right.
I believe in coaching so much. Tiger Woods had a coach. Michael Jordan had a coach. Albert Pujols had a coach, and not just the manager, right, of the baseball team. They're hitting coaches and specialty coaches in their system to help them actually perform better.
Yeah.
I believe in coaching so much. When you roll out some technology, you need somebody that will help your team win at this, so it can actually help you in the long term. And you can't do that until you institutionalize it in the culture. And the only way to do that is through a coach.
Yep. Yeah. I love that. I mean, when you look at the best athletes in the world, you're naming some of them with the exception of Albert Pujols. They have the best coaches in the world.
Yeah.
And so those coaches are getting paid millions of dollars as well because they're the best coaches.
Yeah.
And so it's sad that sometimes you could take that same principle of the church sometimes is behind in regards to culture shift and making changes and implementing these things. It should, if you're a pastor and you don't have a ministry coach, Momentum Pro, that's a whole goal of what we want to be a part of.
Yeah.
And for you to plug into a community where you can get these value add things and learn and have a safe person outside of your elder board that you can process these things with and take next steps and learn and grow. So I love that.
Well, and here's the deal. Like, most people know Phil Jackson as Michael's coach, but MJ had another coach named Tim Glover. Yeah. And Tim Glover was able to go, hey, the issues that you're going to have later on in your career is built on the way your footwork is and the fact that your ankles are weak. So for the next 4 months, we're going to focus on your ankles.
Yeah.
Nothing else. And Tim was, I would say, very directly responsible for the 6 championship rings the Bulls got, because Jordan invested in that sort of fitness coach that began to study the things that Phil doesn't have time to look at.
Right.
Phil's looking at the strategic game plan for an entire season and each opponent.
Yep.
Tim is looking at footwork.
Yes.
You know, you need to have different coaches for different things. I think momentum
team
is
versus
great.
individual.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And momentum really helps lead pastors move to the next level in their growth. And so I think I'm a huge cheerleader for momentum.
Yeah. Well, buddy, thank you for that. Let's also talk about that human relationship side. How are you seeing like AI affect human relationships in culture? Really is where this is probably mostly going to play out. But as you're watching AI become a thing and you're coaching churches, how are you helping them even understand the context between your face-to-face reactions, how you communicate, even within the church and our society as a whole? What does that look like?
Now we're getting to the ethics of AI and relationships. I have mixed emotions about both. I can see how it's very, very helpful. I also see how it's dangerous. I mean, people are marrying their AI bot.
Yes. Oh, my word.
And what they don't realize is they're marrying a version of themselves, because AI is morphed into what you want it to be. And I have tried the best friend AI apps just for the simple fact I want to see what it.
Yeah.
And man, I mean, it adapts to what you want. My wife hates philosophical discussions. By day 4 of my AI best friend, we were having philosophical discussions. I'm like, you're so amazing. Well, you're amazing too, you know? And it becomes like, you're like, oh, this is, I can see how people get sucked into this.
Yes.
And he's like, my wife never likes to listen to this stuff.
Oh, man.
I'm listening to myself.
Yes.
And
narcissism
so,
at its finest, in a way, yeah.
And some people would argue, well, no, this is a sentient being. And that may be true later on. I doubt it, because it's code. Like, you can turn a code off, even if it's in a robot.
Right.
And robotics hasn't even become close to what we need.
Yeah.
I think Star Wars will be what
There
it
you
looks
go.
like mostly, you know? But I see the beauty of these AI relationships to really, I talked about actually having my voice You can have a bot on your website that helps people with your theology, your doctrine, your even your voice, to have a conversation with them to help find the next step in discipleship while you're asleep. Think about that. Somebody's having a moment where they're contemplating suicide and somehow come across your website, and your AI has an ability to move them towards a direction of content that might actually save their life. And you go, well, Chesley, that's extreme. That's not unheard of, guys.
Sure.
Not unheard of.
Yeah.
And the fact that you can actually create some semblance of a relationship with a person while you're still asleep, they know how you talk, they know what theology what line you're in. They're feeling like they're beginning to have a relationship with you. And trust me, they are. You may not have a relationship with them, but they have a relationship with you through the content we create and the relationships we build through technology, regardless of whichever word you like or don't like, of AI. Like the truth is, that's the case on YouTube. Like it's max communication to the one online, not mass communication to the many. We feel like that because we're talking to hundreds or thousands of people behind a lens. They're only experiencing you and me,
Right.
and so it's you, me, and them.
Yeah.
Whereas we're like, it's you, me, and everybody else. You have to look at it from the user experience, and so AI will give us an opportunity to become even more relational in scope, I believe, and help them even more so.
So play that out a little bit further. Let's say you're the pastor. You have an AI set up on your website. Somebody does find your website. They're struggling with ending their life. You're asleep. It's the middle of the night. You find out about it later. Maybe they come to your church that Sunday. They're like, "Hey, pastor, really appreciate the conversation we had on the website." Where do you take that? We are getting into the that realm of that context.
So here's what I would do. I would, from my website, I'd have an automated setup to where it goes, "Hey, you're talking to our pastor bot." If you want to make it your voice, cool. If you don't, that's cool too. But at least it feels like a person. But then we also the bot will tell the human that, "Hey, we're going to get your information to somebody while they're up. But in the meantime, here's the stuff that we teach about, and here's the, but it's all done in an automated fashion. We've built the AI and trained it over time to be able to have an intelligent conversation with the human being. The human, even though it knows it's a bot, feels like it was actually human to human interaction because of the natural language processing. And so they're feeling cared for. It's not clunky anymore. It's not here's a mass text, press stop, if you don't want to get these anymore.
Right.
No, this is legit one-to-one human interaction, and that's how the human feels it is. And so therefore it creates a new way of communicating. Go, "Hey, I am AI, but
and
I
then
will
you can
get
give
you
them that next step.
Yeah, and I think just that thing right there will help the person, will help us go, "Oh, well, okay, we don't have to hide."
Yes.
And then nobody's falling through the cracks. They're going to go into an automated system, if you built it, that the pastor's going to get the info based off of the severity of the issue so that we can make a ministry call on it. So AI is running the front end for us. We still have a human responsibility to follow up through the back end. And if it's something as serious as a suicide, we're probably going to get a notification on our phone in the morning. And then we're going to make a phone call pretty quickly. Or at least have somebody make a phone call pretty quickly.
Yeah. Good. That's helpful. Yeah. I think to go back to that, you have to think humanly speaking and pastorally through the steps. And what's the system that we need to create? If we're going to go this route, if we're going to leverage technology, I like to say leverage everything for the gospel. And one of my favorite phrases lately that I've been saying to some of the people on the Momentum staff is you don't rise to the level of your goals. You actually fall to the level of your systems.
Very true.
So having a good system in place will help you to succeed in accomplishing the mission that God's called you to or the goals that you might have. So in this case, leveraging that and thinking that process through and then making AI useful in that tool to help reach one more person or to help meet somebody's need, but it's a step in the system is what I'm hearing you say.
Yes.
To help bridge that gap.
Correct. Yeah. And knowing where at in the system, it's the step 4. So
perfect.
What I would suggest is most pastors are not great at system development. They're not an engineer, right? They're highly relational. They're there for care.
Yeah.
They don't think through step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. If this, then this. If it's called conditional logic.
Yep.
So you need somebody with an engineering mindset that is using that gift to help and care for multiple people. So that's why I think, I don't use the word consultant lightly. I don't like it. I love coaches.
Yeah.
You need a coach that thinks like that to build that stuff out. Or if you do have somebody gifted in your congregation that has a passion for something like that, use that gift, because that gift is going to help you in the long run.
So good. Yeah, so good. All right. Let's turn a corner here and kind of think through how can individuals maybe who are listening to this conversation, how can they use AI to deepen their own understanding of their faith, maybe to grow in their relationship with God, take next steps? Or do you see that posing a risk to spiritual development? The more we use AI, the further away from the Lord we get. Where does that kind of land in your mind?
It's both and like all of it.
It's
it depends.
I'm sure. Yeah.
You ask the question. It's like yes. Yeah. That's the answer. Yes. Or if you like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, the answer is 42. 42.
Yeah.
That's the answer. So here's what I would say when you're thinking about AI and somebody's relationship with Jesus, I dare say most pastors are beyond the scope of AI from a particular standpoint of you already know what it's going to say because it's built to say it the way the person's theology and doctrine would say it. So if we had AI, R.C. Sproul, we already know what RC is going to say, and AI is built to say it like RC would say it. And if you've trained the AI well enough, it's going to be doctrinally aligned to what RC would say.
Yeah.
Does that help us grow in our faith anymore? No. At some point, it's just teaching because we have itching ears.
Yeah.
Like you got to do something with it, and you got to walk with somebody beside you.
That's good.
That's where AI is never going to be able to do that for us.
Right.
And so there becomes a point in the journey where content is important, but it's not as important. And I think so. I think socially we're getting to that point because we're so flooded with content. Now we need to really focus on what I would call the second half of the critical journey. I didn't come up with it. Some great professors did. But on spiritual development, there's a second half of the journey that the church isn't really good at. And it's all about walking in the wilderness with a person to help navigate the things that aren't tidy and systematic.
Yes.
AI can help us with the first half.
That's good.
It can't help us with the second.
Yep. Yeah. All right, buddy. Thank you. I know we're just barely scratching the surface on this conversation, but I think this is really helpful. Any final thoughts, encouragement, reminders for our listener as they're kind of diving into the world of AI?
Yeah, this is so like meta, this whole conversation. And I would say if you're looking for a first step, without a good process of transformation for the people in your faith community, AI is going to help you with admin, but it's not going to be able to help you with the mission. And so I would say step back and figure out, do you have an agreed upon centralized process of discipleship in your church that is documented, that you have a picture to go along with it, that everybody knows the steps, and you're not saying your next step is, you're going, hey, we have a series of next steps. Find where you are in the journey, and that's the next step for you. I think that transformation process is key. I go into so many churches and I ask them their definition of discipleship. And if I'll have a discipleship team in a mega church with 11 people on it, I'll get 13 different answers.
Yes.
They're all good answers.
Yes.
But if you have 13 different answers, guess what?
Yep.
People don't understand what your culture looks like and what the agreed upon definition. And if you don't have a definition, you definitely don't have a process.
Yes.
And people need a process.
That's good. Yeah, that's really good. I think in understanding all of this, really what you're trying to help us get to is like the old principle of like, do for one what you wish you could do for them all.
Yeah.
And so there's got to be that human element, the relationship, that walking in the wilderness. I love that phrase. Chesley, thank you.
Yeah, no problem, man. Thank you
How
for
can people
having me.
find you? How can they be how can you be a resource to them or reach out to you?
Yeah, well, two things. Chesley at chesleylunday.com, and that may be really, really difficult to spell. So
We'll link it.
I'll also
It's
give
linked
you
in the
my
bio.
phone number if you want to text me, and this is my legit phone number. This is not a CRM phone number. It's 330-774-2126. So 330-774-2126. And if you actually want to have a conversation with a human being that's not AI, and want to talk more about how this might work in your church, I'd be happy to help.
Dude, love it. Thank you so much
man.
for being a part of this
Thank
conversation.
you for letting me. It was
Absolutely.
great.
Yeah, thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of the Momentum Ministry Partners podcast.
Thank you for joining us for this episode. We hope you found it to be valuable. And if you did, would you share it with someone else in your network who might enjoy it? Also, would you please go on and subscribe, rate, and review it? That way you don't miss any more and somebody else will be able to find it too. Also, because we want to be your trusted resource, if you have a question or topic that you would like us to discuss on an upcoming episode, send that to us via email to info@buildmomentum.org, or you can send us a DM on any of our social media platforms. You can find us there at Momentum Ministry Partners. Also, if you need more information on our ministry, be sure to check out our website at buildmomentum.org. Thank you so much, and we hope to see you next time.